Hi, everyone. My name is Angel Kaur. I'm an assistant professor of neuroscience at UNC Asheville, and I'll be talking to you today about managing your time and tasks for online courses with Trello. This slide gives you an overview of how I build my planning templates. For each class, I have one planning document. Within that document, I have tasks broken down by each week and further by each day within that week. That allows me to capture what needs to be done for every single class meeting before, during, and after class, and how that adds up together over the week and over several weeks to create the overall task list for the class that I'm going to be working on. Now, I will share with you the system that I use in Trello, but I want to emphasize that there's no actual perfect system for this. Any system will work so long as you use it consistently. You could build these planning templates in a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, a whiteboard, a piece of paper, or Trello. Whatever you use, if you don't use it consistently, then it's not going to be useful in any form. So consistency is really the key here. So what is Trello? Trello is a web-based project management tool that you can use with a free account and has all the capabilities of the tool even at that free account level. It's easy to make templates for reuse within Trello, which is one of the reasons that I appreciate working in that system. Once you set up a template, you can reuse it for other courses. It also has a visual and an adaptable structure, which allows me to adapt to the changing needs. If for some reason I have to cancel one of the classes that were meant to be live and synchronous, I can simply move around the pieces in my Trello boards so that I can visually see how I've changed the structure of the course in the middle of the course because of some extenuating circumstances. So next I'm going to jump into Trello and show you what Trello looks like and how you can use it to set up your courses. So on your screen, you should now see the home page for a Trello space. Because I've used Trello a fair amount, you can see that there's a lot of different boards in here. Trello is organized by boards, as you can see here, and within the boards, there is further organization in lists and cards. I'll get to that in just a second. When you set up a board, you have to pick a team. This really is a workspace, so you can define this team and workspace however you want. So you can see I have it as a big picture space where I put all of my big planning boards. I also have a space where I have writing templates that were shared by a writing coach I've worked with, class research, planning templates, and so on and so forth. This allows me to set up boards and still have some organization, and you can star a board to set them up on the very top as little cards that you can then see the major boards you're going to be working with. You can also rearrange these boards by just grabbing and moving them around. As you can see, each of these boards has a slightly different image, and that's the background image for the board itself. So for an example, this is my weekly review board. Here's where I plan out what I'm going to be doing each day of the week based on tasks of that week. And so to customize it, the background of it is set to a picture of a planner. And you can do that simply by going to Show Menu, Change Background, and selecting a photo from within their system. So I wanted to show you the lists and cards setup. And to do that, I'm going to navigate to a class planning board that I have from a previous course from last fall. So this is my neuropharmacology course. And to customize the background of this board, I put in this picture with some medication in it, just to keep things interesting. Within this, you can see that there are lists. This whole thing is a list, and you can move it independently. There's also cards that you can also move independently. And you can organize this by any mechanism that you want. I have it set up with some planning and setup lists on this end, and then a list for each week as described earlier in the video, with each card being a single day within that week. And I also pulled out the grading on this one separately. Because this is a course from last fall, everything looks green because everything is completed. But if it were an ongoing course, that wouldn't be true. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute as well. So how would you even set this up? Well, adding a list is as simple as clicking Add Another List and putting in any title that you want. To add a card, you can do the same type of thing, but on the Add a Card space. say add a card and put in whatever you want on the card title and hit enter. What's really cool about these cards is how much you can put on the back of the card. So this is the back of the card. When you click on it, this will pop up and you can put in it a description. You can add activity in the form of comments. You can add members to this if you're co-working with someone. You can customize it with labels. So you can see on this board, I've got a few different labels set up. So I can change a label by clicking on it, putting any name that I want and selecting a color, and that will give me another label that I can use. You can add checklists. Simply putting in a blank checklist allows you to add items within that checklist that then become clickable. And as you complete your task, you get a visual to see how far along the task you are. So once all of the tasks are done, you get a lovely little animation and a 100% green check mark that then shows up on the card itself. So that's where you see all of these earlier. That's what's going on with the checklists. You can also add due dates and start dates to each card. You can add attachments, whether that's from your computer, from within Trello, or some other space, or just a web link. Anything can be attached in here for easy navigation. There's also additional features here like adding covers or power-ups that I won't go into. You can make a card a template or move and copy cards as well. If you no longer want to use this card, you can archive or delete the card entirely. The archive will still retain a copy of it. The deleting will delete it entirely. You can do that with lists as well. So if you click here, it gives you some options, including copying the list or moving it, and setting up some custom workflows, or moving all of the cards, archiving the cards, or archive this list. So this is a really adaptable system that also has a lot of visual components. As I scroll through it, I can see very quickly that all of the cards that need to have some tasks completed have been checked off. And if I didn't complete all the tasks in a checklist, but I did complete the day for some reason, I can simply edit by editing the labels and clicking the done label. That'll give me the same visual feedback that this part of the course has been completed successfully. So how do I actually use this in my course planning? On the pre-semester planning part of the list, I set up a template that has the typical tasks I need to do before the semester starts. This includes brainstorming stuff for the course, setting up a concept map and a course design matrix for the class, picking textbooks, setting up the syllabus, the Zoom meetings, and the LMS itself. For the LMS, let me give you a quick example. I'm going to uncheck these so they're easier to read. To set up my Moodle space, I want to make sure that I've got all of these pieces before the class starts so that students have the ability to go in and check on the things that they want to check on. So as I move through setting up my Moodle page, I can go in and check these individual tasks off. So anytime I open up this Trello board, I'll know how far along the tasks I am and what's left to do. This course brainstorming card actually has a Trello attachment. So it attaches in another board, which is my course brainstorming board. Here, I usually just bring in any citations or links that I want to keep track of, and then arrange them based on the theme of that particular thing. So here I have some ideas about assignments, including some handwritten notes from a time I wrote down some notes somewhere. There are interesting readings in a second list that might be something I want to bring into the course. One time I was specifically looking for opioid readings, so I've got a list of those as well. I have different boards for each class as a brainstorming board, and then also a working board where I track what's actually happening in the course once the semester started. And that's the one I'm going to be looking at when I'm looking at this one. The next one is the assignment list, where I put down all the assignments, the major assignments in the course, and the pieces I need to make sure are ready for those assignments. To do that, I typically set up a template card, which shows right here. Here I can set up a generic checklist that will cover the work I need to do to set up a new assignment. And I can simply create a card from the template if I'm adding a new assignment into this class. So if I were to put this in as a new card, now you can see it has all the checklist items from before and is a separate card here that I can then, again, move around if I want to, or if I don't actually want to keep this, I can archive and delete the card. Then I break down each week by each day of the class meeting and the tasks that go into that one. For week 3 in this class, for instance, we were going to discuss drug abuse and addiction. So on the Tuesday meeting of this class, I needed to create a video, and so I had a workflow for what the video was going to look like and what I needed to do to get to that endpoint. This is a very detailed checklist. You might not want to work from something that detailed, and that's okay. That's the great thing about using a system like this, is you can set up a template that's really customized to you. Then I also have a lesson prep checklist for each particular class meeting. And then I put in, an after class section for checking the attendance. And I typically write down in here if someone missed class, and then making sure that I upload those Zoom recordings for students that want to catch up on the class or revisit their notes. I can set all of these checklists up one time and then make this card a template. Once I make it a template, I can then copy it, and I have a fresh card that has all those checklist items that I created. So when I'm setting this up, I will typically start by having one template card for the lessons, and then copying that template card over and over again to create the system. I'm going to uncheck the template here. In fact, once you set up a single week, you can simply click on the 3 dots and say copy list, rename it for week 4 and the dates that go there, and say create list. It will then copy over the entire list, including all the cards and the checklist items, and will reset them so none of them are checked off anymore. You can see all of those checklist items are still here. So by setting up this kind of template-based system, I'm able to make sure I've captured all the tasks that are going to go into executing this course and setting it all up before the course ever begins. This makes sure that I don't lose track of little details that go into maintaining an online course, making sure every link is working and every item has been posted correctly within the correct structures, and putting in this time before the semester starts. It's about 2 to 3 hours to set up the board for the first time. Once you have it set up, though, it's with you through the whole semester. So as an example of what's going on right now, here's a board for a class I'm teaching this semester. This is a senior seminar class. It's entirely student-led, and there are 2 sections to the class that meet once a week. So in addition to those same pre-semester prep lists that I had before, the weekly structure looks a little bit different. So I have 2 cards, one for section 1 and one for section 2. And within each card, I have a place where I can write down notes as the students are working through their presentation. I have my own lesson prep checklist as before. This class is a reading seminar, and so I typically post those readings through Perusal, which is a social annotation tool. And I have to make sure I check in on the lesson plans the students are submitting so they can be ready to come in and teach class. I have to complete my own reading, set up the reading quiz, and then there's a override for a student in this class. And after class, again, the attendance with the what's going on with students coming into class on time or not, uploading those Zoom recordings. And because of the structure of this class, I actually just have grading within that card. So for each week, I have these 5 points of grading that I have to do. Once I've set it up once, I can, as I did before, either simply copy the card or make it into a template, and then repeat the structure through the rest of my semester. So as we scroll through, you can see I've kept up with all the grading and lesson prep so far. We're in week 11 here, and within this week, I have about 3 items left to complete out this course's work for the week. And I can see, looking ahead, there are certain pieces I've already completed. So in this case, the checklist item that's checked off is posting the reading. So I know all the readings are posted. And I can see, as I move through the semester, what's left to do. I also typically have a list for post-semester work, so making sure the grades are turned in, I write down any lessons learned from the semester, and if I need to download any assignments or data or want to do any scholarship of teaching and learning work on this, I'm able to make sure I keep track of those things here as well. And I had a phase 1 course prep piece here that I moved to the end because I'd completed all this work and I don't want to have it at the front end. Because you can move these lists around, you might actually decide not to set it up the way I have, where all the weeks stay the way they are meant to be, and move the active list to the front. So as soon as you log into this board, it's right in the front what you need to be working on. There's lots of different ways to adapt this system, and that's one of the things that's really wonderful about how Trello works. I prefer Trello for this because of its visual components, the power of what can happen in each of these cards, where we can write down all of the things we want to keep track of, and the fact that you can copy boards or even make a whole board a template. So I've already taught this class this semester. If I'm teaching this online again next spring, all I have to do is go to this board and create a copy. You can do that by clicking on the menu, clicking more, and saying copy board. I can then put this into another setup where it will keep the cards and template cards, but will delete all the checklist items that have been checked off. And I can then make small edits to tailor it to the next time I teach this course. You can also set up a generic template that overall captures perhaps these three and the very last list of post-semester work, and then set up your own templates for a new class, set up the whole structure. But then again, the next time you teach it, it's right there and you can go back to it. So this gives you an overview of how I use Trello to keep track of the work that I have to do. And as I said, there's lots of other things you can do with Trello. As I showed you, I use a space where I keep a weekly review of what I need to be working on. I have a home base that keeps track of some big picture items for me, courses that I'm teaching and the research that I did to set up those courses. I also plan writing articles in here and my podcast series and many other things. Anything that needs to be done and has details to keep track of ends up in Trello. And it helps my mental overload because I know if I thought of something and I wanted to keep track of it, it's in Trello somewhere. So I can simply put my search terms in this box and it'll pull up for me something that I might be interested in keeping track of and knowing where exactly did I put that in my Trello boards. I also often use my weekly review as the first point of depositing new information if I don't immediately put it in the relevant board. So hopefully this video gave you a few ideas of how you could set up a more effective way to manage your time and tasks in your online learning. If you have questions or maybe want to get your hands on one of my templates, you're welcome to email me or catch me on social media at Club Core, and I'd be happy to connect you with some more resources. Thanks.